how does a cloud work and what are the controls that customers have in terms of data residency today. So we have, with the European Sovereign Cloud, the ability to run AWS services that are inside the region without any dependency.
Rodrigue Vitini is the Digital Sovereignty Specialist Solutions Architect at Amazon Web Services, AWS in Berlin.
What are the concrete technical and operational criteria that you think are critical to determine whether a cloud environment is truly sovereign?
We've designed AWS to be sovereign by design. When talking about sovereignty, we have observed jurisdiction requiring data to be really located in a specific country. We have over 200 plus services being provided, and the data would remain in the region.
Hello, everyone. My team and I have been crafting content and stories that inform, inspire, empower, and bring real value to you. If you haven't already, please take a moment to check that you're subscribed. It's the easiest way to support our work and stay updated with every new release. Join us on this journey of learning and discovery. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for our latest drops. Hello and welcome to the Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast show, powered by citiesabc.com, businessabc.net, and wisdomia.ai. We keep profiling the global leaders, the thought leaders, and the people making a change in the world that is more and more disrupted and inspired by technologies, by artificial intelligence, by a lot of different things, but especially what we celebrate in this series and profile is the doers. Today, I'm particularly excited to welcome Rodrigue Vitini, Digital Sovereignty Specialist Solutions Architect at Amazon Web Services, AWS in Berlin. Rodrigue works closely with public and private sector stakeholders to implement advanced sovereignty controls, ensuring that cloud adoption aligns with national, regional, and sector-specific requirements. Prior to this, Rodrigue held the role of Global Solutions Architect at AWS, where he advised enterprises on digital strategy, cybersecurity, and large-scale cloud transformation.
Rodrigue, you are dealing and leading a big important area within AWS, and this area is more and more important because, of course, when we talk about cloud computing, we talk about countries, we talk about cloud computing, we talk about how this impacts different jurisdictions and different areas. And I know that AWS has been making a big effort to work between the different international geopolitics and as well how this brings in terms of the idea of a European sovereign cloud, which is a concept very dear to me. So first of all, before starting, could you tell us a bit of your experience, inspirations, and a bit of your work that made you who you are today?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dinis, for having me today. Very glad we have the opportunity for this special session on sovereignty to get to know each other. And let me tell you about where I'm coming from. Literally, I've always been driven by learning, testing, and we actually have at Amazon a leadership principle that is called learn and be curious. And so I think I've really met my peers in the area. We are never done learning. And that's what drives me. This is, from the start, trying to understand how things are working. That led me to do some study in the direction of quantum mechanics, understanding how the invisible works. That was really, for me, a fantastic experience. And then I moved in the area of telecommunication by having an engineering degree. And from there, it's been a ride. I always try to see and anticipate what's coming ahead in the next 5 to 10 years. And where I find an interest, I just get going. So learning is an important aspect. The other one is technology and people. So I work in the technology area, but I also work with people that are very inspiring, where it's a great experience working, collaborating, And we have also another say, which is a behavior we like to adopt as part of our culture. It's about work hard, have fun, and then allegedly make it story. So that's how I would put it now on what drove me to be who I am today.
You have an amazing profile because you touch a lot of different areas from multiple different countries to fantastic technology and as well educational background and as well dealing with different operations that touches a lot of different countries, geographies, and as well levels of expertise in technology from telecoms to different areas of cloud computing and dealing with clients in different geographies. So one of the things that is very dear to me is, of course, when we talk about cloud computing in particular and everything right now that touches from AI to infrastructure for countries and for companies, is the idea of integrating a cloud computing environment that is designed to ensure that data is protected and remains within a specific geography or boundary. And the very important thing is, I think, with everything happening, with the challenges and opportunities that are happening, there's a lot of things, especially how we create exclusivity to the legal jurisdiction, to the local laws of a country, a region, and so forth. So in the case of what you guys are doing in terms of AWS, you recently announced the European Sovereign Cloud. And this is quite a big thing, I think is unique in terms of global players. And it's from a solutions architect's perspective, I would like to ask you, what are the concrete technical and operational criteria that you think are critical to determine whether a cloud environment is truly sovereign, and where the most public discussions oversimplify the reality, because it's not a simple thing?
Oh, thanks, Dinis. As we say sometimes, a lot to unpack in this question. So I will take it step by step. I think the first element is to reflect on what you refer as true sovereignty. So we're talking here about objectives, and as part of my role as a solution architect, I get a lot of questions from customers that are possibly related to emotions. And my role and my objective in those conversations is to get to understand the objectives that customers want to achieve when talking about sovereignty. We have observed, and I must say, I was involved very early in those conversations back in 2021. That has led me to see exactly what you reflect on. Jurisdiction requiring data to be really located in a specific country. Then there was an evolution of how those data are being protected, who can access them. And we have this element, what we call about data sovereignty, that was very early in the conversation. And now for the past 2 years, we're more moving into consideration about the resilience, notably like DORA in the financial sector, which is the law that has been passed to be able to enable operational resilience for the financial sector and banking. And then, the question of independence. So these are all the elements that I'll take into consideration when working as a solution architect to understand what are the objectives you want to achieve to a high level, and then identify what are the solutions that we have at hand to be able to fulfill those objectives. And before the European Sovereign Cloud was ready, I would say it's been launched now on the 15th of January. So we're talking days, literally, or weeks after the launch. Before that cloud was available, we have explained, any occasion we had with customers that we've designed AWS to be sovereign by design. What does it mean? Concretely, the customer have the control on where they can use the cloud in terms of regions. They can select a region. We have 6 regions in the European Union today, plus the European Sovereign Cloud now, so that is making 7 different choices. And customer, when they are using AWS, can run their database, they can store objects, they can run multiple services. We have over 200 plus services being provided. And the data would remain in the region. The data plane, so-called, remain in the region. It can be even identified to the availability zone level for database or instances. So that's important to understand. And the control plane also remain in the region. So that's the case for 99% of the services. And then we have other services that are global. Those services are meant for identity and access management. We have the root of trust for encryption that is one of these, the DNS service, the CDN type of service, naming CloudFront. They are by nature global because of the way that they are being used. But essentially, we've explained to our customer how does a cloud work and what are the controls that customer have in terms of data residency today. So that's what we call sovereign by design. This is an example, but we went a bit further down the line as well as explaining our pledge. So Matt Garman, back in November 2022, has communicated our digital sovereignty pledge under the form giving control and more choice without compromise. That's really the idea, what we want to explain to our customer on what is available today. Now, moving to the European Sovereign Cloud, we saw a need to have, I would say, more choice and more controls for customers. One of those asks was to reduce dependencies with those global endpoints. And as I was explaining earlier, despite having a global character or nature, the identity and access management is seen as a global endpoint located in what we call US East 1 as a region. And that was one of the questions we got from customers, plus some other in the dimension. I don't want to go too deep into the detail, but the idea was, can we provide a new cloud that is including all of those services in one new partition that is completely independent from the rest? That was a mental model, and this is what I'm taking the time to explain this because it defines then from there all the properties and the step that we took to build this new region in Germany. So we have with the European Sovereign Cloud the ability to run AWS services that are inside a partition, inside a region, without any dependency with endpoints that are from the global commercial partition. And that is important because you could argue if there's an event for whatever exceptional circumstances where Europe will be cut off the rest of the world, that cloud has the ability to work autonomously. Because it is independent, we are also separated physically and logically. We've also integrated operational autonomy in terms of having a team of EU resident. We're moving to an EU citizen requirement by the end of 2027, which means we're operating, we've built, we are operating, and we're managing this cloud from within Europe. So we have the ability to run exclusively from our European continent. And back to the question of sovereignty that is answering to the ask for independence and resilience. We have a different posture in that dimension. So I covered already a lot of ground with your question. Now, I would add to it that essentially the observation we had on the market is that the sovereignty requirement and expectation from the market were resulting in offerings that were provided to customers with a very limited set of services. You would see some cloud labeling themselves as being sovereign, but indeed, if you look into the detail of the portfolio, they would be providing computing, database, storage capabilities, and encryption would be in the lot. Sometimes analytics, five or sometimes a bit more, but very much a handful of services. And we thought this is not enough to innovate, and we took it to provide a fully featured cloud. So when we've built the European Sovereign Cloud, we took into consideration the 30 services that we usually launch for a new region on the commercial infrastructure, on the global infrastructure. Example, what we've launched in 2025 with the Bangkok region, Mexico, Taipei. Those are regions with about 30 services. And we push the bar. We like to raise the bar for sovereignty to actually deliver about 80 services. So we nearly triple the amount of services will be provided, just to say, for ourselves, yeah, that's possible. We can do that. We can mobilize ourselves. We're sure this is a very important step for Europe, for digital sovereignty, and we wanted to have a fully featured cloud available for our customers. So we're covering the topic you might be, we might be alluding to later on, to address the need for generative AI type of services, machine learning, artificial intelligence are in the mix, plus multiple database, and we're covering analytics services and so on. I can't go through the list there right now, but it's available in public information. So that's what I have to take into consideration in my role as a solution architect. Can I now architect with my customers in a way that I truly help them to innovate? And bearing in mind, one of my profound beliefs as a solution architect is that when you get to the work of doing a transformation, I like to and this might be the French culture of me that is speaking right now, but I like to consider a little bit like, okay, now you're gonna be preparing yourself to cook, and if you're gonna go into that direction, do you open the fridge? You take something that you're gonna put in a microwave and be ready in 2 minutes, or are you seriously going to cook and take vegetable and raw product and transform them into something else? So I like to use that metaphor to say, if you're going to the cloud, consider that it's going to be an effort. You're going to have to build new skills, and lift and shift is really not going to get you that far away in the transformation process. So rather, once you get to the task, look into all possibility you have to innovate, to automate, using the cloud, using AWS, which is my field of expertise, is really opening some other way of thinking. How you are developing your application. You can think about workflow. You can implement event-driven architecture. This is a complete new world, and we're really then far away from considerations such as, do you have that type of instances, and do you have that type of database? We go way, way beyond that, and the European Sovereign Cloud is enabling that type of transformation, essentially. So I pause here. Maybe you have specific questions or points you want to dive deeper into.
It's very impressive that you create like in the entire kitchen and the food for the entire cloud sovereign system, which is quite impressive. So in the follow-up of this, and especially how we go from the theory to the practice. So the EU geographic continent comprehends 44 to 50 sovereign states. Of course, if you go more to Eastern Europe and so forth, but the European Union comprehends 27 of these states. In 2026, the European cloud computing landscape is defined by a strategical push for digital sovereignty, a rapid shift towards edge computing, and the rigorous new sustainability standards. With the digital decade targets that by 2030, the EU aims for 75% of the European business to use cloud edge technologies and to deploy 10,000 climate neutral edge nodes. Bear in mind what you just described and the capacities of AWS, a major global infrastructure player worldwide, and your experience over the last years. What has most changed in Europe, and how the business are understanding digital sovereignty, and what is still being misunderstood in what you just described? Because of course, some people know how to use it, some people don't, and Europe is not so digital savvy, probably as prepared as probably the US or other countries around the world, but probably still leading as well.
Thanks, Dinis. I would say this is a difficult question you're asking me, but there are some trends, and I try to cover three dimensions then to help through the answer to potentially have some call for action afterwards. The simplification that I'm seeing very often is around mistaking sovereignty with autarky. Sovereignty, there's multiple definitions that are available right now, and we've seen very recently in November the European Commission creating a sovereign reference framework where this is a very interesting move where we're going to have some abilities to centralize. We do have also a sovereign framework from AWS. So I think this is potentially going to help us to avoid misleading, I would say, the audience with this topic. And so again, what I'm seeing very often is the digital sovereignty being associated with autarky, which means the ability to run everything based on Europe technology provider. And this is where it is important to look at all the different stacks that compose the technology that is indeed required for a digital transformation. When we look into that, I can just briefly explain, and we can take some example for reflection for the audience. You have to get started with the silicon. So what type of chips do you want to use? What's available on the market? Then you have to integrate that into server technology. What are those technology provider on the market? What are the leaders? And you go up the stack where you then are going to cover networks, switches, router, firewall, and what virtualization engine can you use? And then you look into what type of software do you need for your business, and you can pile it up there. You can go in the direction of what end devices are you actually using, what operating systems, and I think it is very important to have the full view end to end of the technology provider that are present and what are the choices that can be made here. So that is another simplification that I'm seeing there, which is, I think, again, calling to dive deeper into what are the components of the reality today. How does thing work? So you have to dive a little bit deeper into that, and the more we think end to end, the best we're able as human to to understand, okay, what are all the different steps that are required to get there, and then we can gain an understanding. So that's, I think, a very important element in avoiding confusion, I would say, when looking into the topic. And now another element to that, because I spoke about technology, but we are looking into digitalization. This is a transformation. The essential part of this transformation, it's about the people and the skills. And I think the conversation are very, very often oriented, or too often directed in the technology piece, but it's actually a people and skill uh, um, scope of work. We need to have the people there, and there's a lot of things to do. And we don't have enough people, we don't have enough skills, and this is a reality of what is, potentially limiting the digitalization effort. And the sovereignty is actually very much linked to the people, if you would allow me, putting the perspective there on how things work. So there's different stack to consider. There's the infrastructure stack, the technology stack, and AWS is also helping with skills and people. I think we've trained last year, there was 29 million people that globally were being trained. We're providing free training with our skill builders. And I think this is really an important direction to take to completely realize that we as people have a full role to take and be the actor of that change, if I may.
Well, that's very impressive, 29 million people being trained. And this is a key area for successful business, like you said, in digital transformation. So, Rodrigue, I want to thank you, and people listening to us. I think there's a lot of, we'll put all the notes about the interview.
In my next interview with Rodrigue, we will discuss how AWS sovereign cloud computing can improve and mitigate risks and the feasible and operationally sustainable AI architecture it builds. Stay tuned.